Hello everybody and welcome right around Australia. This is NBL Overtime, but you know what? You already knew that. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. There's those socials. There's a lot going on. A lot on court, a lot off court. And a man who dominated both and still does to a small regard is the Copes. Leonard Cope, how you doing, man?
Good to see you.
You dominated off and on, right? I'm right? Yeah. Good, I love it. Liam Santa Maria, GM of the Next Stars. I'll tell you what, we're going to discuss the old draft and how it sits right now. Look at him.
He's ready to go. The guy's up and about.
Yeah, absolutely. You bloody well should be. Sam Vecenie's going to join us. Of course, mock draft. It is like reading the NBL media guide with all the NBL players in it. So we'll get to all that and plenty more. Of course, Big Sauce and Olgun Ulick with the latest news, which is where we are going to start with the Illawarra Hawks announcing early Tuesday morning that Jacob Jackomas is no longer the head coach of Illawarra after a season and we'll say a season and a quarter as the head coach of the Hawks. There you go. They've agreed to part company effective immediately. I don't know about you two boys, but I highly doubt there was all that mutual. But in the end, Jacob is no longer there. They met, there it is. I'm going to start with you, Leonard Copeland.
Yes.
What do you make of this whole situation?
Well, it was always going to happen. I mean, over 2 years, what was he, 5-32?
Something like that.
Look, he struggled to find the lineup that was going to make them successful. At the end of the day, I think he tried. I think he did his best, and I think he's a good coach. Sometimes things just don't work out. You know what I mean? Now, he had talent, but they didn't mix. Couldn't get it to work.
He's got talent?
They had talent on the floor, but he couldn't make it work.
Okay. So, before I hear from Liam Santa Maria, it has been announced that Justin Tatum is going to be the interim head coach. We'll get more on what that looks like when it comes to length. Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? Is it seasons? From Olgun in around 15 minutes' time. He has been there in a role, so it sort of fits nicely. He's got that relationship with the players in the organisation as well. So he'll slide in there as the interim head coach. Liam, are you with Coach that this team has talent and they've underperformed?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely how it all meshes together and how it all fits together. Here you see the CV for Justin Tatum. He's going to step in, as you say, as the interim head coach of. He's got some coaching experience back home, and he's been with the group. And I think that's obviously he's the guy to be able to step up from that spot and slide in and just kind of hold the reins for a little while here. Definitely had some talent. I was one of the people coming into the start of the season who thought, I think we're going to see an improved Illawarra Hawks team here. It's a shame the way it's worked out. We know it's a results-based business and that they haven't been getting wins on the board. But, I was very forthright throughout last season that I thought he was doing a good job. 3 wins is not many. It's franchise low, what they put together last season. But the fact, in a season like that, the fact that team stayed together and continued to play hard, I thought was a feather in his cap, and I said so at the time. The extension was strange. After you come off a 3-25 to then get another year added on was interesting, and then it's a shame that it's worked out this way because he's a good guy. He's a smart basketball brain. Yep. I really like him as a guy, and I was cheering for him and that team to do well, but they haven't. And ownership, I guess, really, they're paying the bills, so they reserve the right to pull the trigger and make changes in this type of situation.
Does ownership take some of the blame for this?
Yeah, absolutely they have to. The franchise has to take some type of responsibility. I don't know if he can coach, right? I just don't know if he can coach or if he can't coach, and I don't think anyone can definitively say yes or no based on what we've seen. You've seen last year, we spoke about it. Wins-loss, bad, and it is professional sport, but the fact is that he had them playing, and we don't have the timeouts and the audio anymore, but last year, late in the year, the way that he spoke to that group, we spoke about on this show. Yep. Right, I didn't come into this season with any great, huge expectation on this team. Hey, have they got a top 20 player in the league on this roster?
I mean, Justin Robinson, Gary Clark, Tyler Harvey, each one of those guys has the potential to be that.
Yeah?
Yeah, and they haven't been.
So, Harvey was in his first year, All-NBL first team, and since then has probably struggled a little bit. Yeah. But the potential is all well and so. That means that whoever they're going to replace him with has to roll on in and turn this roster into playing good basketball.
Well,
and
Farling was much better last year as well, and this year he's a bit down. So at the end of the day, coaches get fired.
Yes.
But maybe the players have to take some of this blame as well because as a professional player, you still got to go out there and put numbers on the board.
I think it's a sum of all parts situation. I'm not so saying, again, I don't know if he can coach. I don't think he's had the opportunity to be able to see with the roster. I don't look at that roster and think, you know what, this is a top 4 team. And that's kind of been proven over a number of years now. But what I will say is that the timing is just so strange for me. It is so strange.
Why?
Because we're 8 or 9 games into this year, whoever comes in, now obviously Justin Tatum is there now, and he may be a super coach, and I've got to eat my words, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, and they get going, and they make the play-in, and all of a sudden it's a lot rosy, and he will get extended on the back of that, so well he should. But already News Corp reporting that, you know, Gores was approached 2 weeks ago, which is interesting in its own right, said no. Trevor Gleeson, we'll get to that, said no. Do you know anything about Joey Wright?
Joey Wright
said no.
Hold on,
Right?
Trevor Gleeson has said no.
Well, that's been reported by News Corp.
Has it?
Yeah. So in that situation, like, I'm not saying in the off-season they would have said no. You have more leverage after a season is done and the Olympic preparation is done to be able to swing at these high-profile coaches who would be great for the organisation. I don't argue that. You sack this guy after seven games or 8 games, you've got to make sure that whoever's coming in next can salvage the year, or it's just a whole waste, or you're swinging and missing in everything.
I don't know. I think if as an organisation you've lost faith in your head coach, then I don't think it benefits anyone to just roll with that for very long. And we're not far away from the FIBA window, so there is a little break coming up. So my thought is, like, if you are feeling that way as an ownership and a management, and you have got to a point where you feel like you guys need to move on from your head coach, to sit there and go, well, let's just play out 19 games with this guy. That doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, if it's player-driven, which I have not heard anything, but if it is, I understand.
I'm not saying you would do that that it is player-driven.
No, I know you're not. But all right, my second, all right, we'll break it up a little bit. The second part of them swinging at a high-profile coach makes less sense. Because if you were going to get a guy like Gaussian or Wright or Gleeson...
Isn't that doing your due diligence, though? As in...
Yeah,
hey, you guys went and
swing
and hired this guy. Yeah. But did you call Gorge? Did you call Gleeson? Did you speak to Joey Wright?
You know,
did you speak to
at the end of the season? If you swing it on now, I don't think any of those.
Yeah, but doesn't it make sense to tap into them and find out? Well, what's your state of play now? Would you be interested now?
Well, no.
If you're not interested now, what about at the end of the season?
It looks bad on management when you go and give him an extension and then fire mid-season.
I agree. Well, that is also true.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. If you're going to say, hey, Gorge, you know what? We're thinking about making a change. We've made a change. The Olympics, we understand all of that. Can we be in constant conversation? It's been reported, and this could be 100% off. Been reported they asked if those guys wanted to coach the team, and they have said no. And that is a bad look for the organisation, because I think it's just a bad timing to actually ask. You have those conversations once the season is done. You've moved on.
I don't know. I think you're jumping in shadows a little bit there. I think it's a good look for the organisation that you're asking the question of these guys. That's called doing your due diligence.
I'm not.
Why wouldn't you ask the question?
No, you asked the question to see if there's any chance next season.
Maybe they have.
Right, okay, and they just all said no. So that can't be a good look for the organisation. You start to swing and just missing so badly.
You're certain Gleeson has said no to next year.
Well, I don't know Trevor Gleeson, but that's what is reported. So I will. You know what? I will say certainly Gaussian, right? We reported that Gleeson, but you think it's a possibility?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I just don't. I'm not going to hate on that owner and that GM for that. Now, that situation that you were referring to, that's not a great look. But the idea that they've done something wrong in the timing or in the reaching out of these guys to those guys, that doesn't make sense.
So what happens if they get to the end of the season, right, and they just don't bring in a high profile? Like these guys who they are clearly looking at, which I totally... I'm not even... The guys they are asking the question of are the right guys. I'm not pushing back on that. I just don't think the timing is right, because I think there is almost no chance those guys would take a job eight games into a year, and then all of a sudden they've said no, so they've got to backflip and they've got to go back into the conversation. It just becomes messy in my view.
The bit that's interesting for me now is going, all right, well, what is the process from here? In their mind, what's the plan here with Justin Tatum? Is it like we've seen in other situations where he's going to be our interim head coach until the end of the year? We're just going to let this roll. Or is he an interim coach for a couple of games while we go through this process? Maybe they're going into it.
We go look for another coach.
We go look for a coach and get in some conversations with some guys. Maybe they're going about it just open-minded and say, well, if we can find the right guy, then it might only be for a couple of games. If we can't, then we have an open mind and a willingness to stretch it out.
And they go overseas and look for another coach, and you go.
Well, they have to. That's what most teams. Sydney have done it particularly well the last couple of years. Perth did it. But who do you think's the guy then?
I think that they should look very closely and make sure that they're having a conversation. And indeed, I think they should hire Judd Flavel. Now, I've mentioned him on this desk previously for other jobs. I mentioned Adam Ford before anyone was talking about Adam Ford, and I said he is going to be a very good head coach in the NBL. And I think Judd Flavel is also that type of guy. And he's been overlooked.
He's put his time in.
Big time.
Yep.
You know, under Andre Lamanis, under Dean Vickerman, under Simon Mitchell. He's won championships in the NZNBL. He's the reigning championship winning coach in the NZNBL. Canterbury Rams hadn't won for 31 years and he just took them to the title. He's ready to go. You don't always have to hire a big name. Sometimes you can just hire the right guy and you might end up with a Modi Mayor or a Adam Ford or a Justin Schuller who's doing a good job in Brisbane or an Andre Lamanis or a Dean Vickerman. And I think Judd Flavel should be that guy.
Nice.
I like it.
I agree.
I like it. Olgun Ulick, give us a bit more news on this story that's really only been developing for the last 12 or 15 hours. There's so many different avenues to it. It is a rare time for an NBL coach to get the old Tijuana as well so early in the season. So plenty more to play out. The throwdown. Copes, you've been in some huge games.
Yes.
Southeast Melbourne Magic and Melbourne Tigers really springboarded the league in Melbourne and with those rivalries. I feel there's a bit of that on Sunday, wasn't there?
That's what I said to Liam. This game didn't seem manufactured. They looked like they hated each other and they wanted to go at each other. Now, even though Melbourne United were lacking players, it didn't matter. Southeast Melbourne came out hard and they wanted to go. Craig Moeller, just a different player, rebounding, playing defense. But there was always that doubt for me because I said, the wounded dog. You can't underestimate the wounded dog. And Melbourne United have been in these situations. Even though it's a road game for them, it's still their stadium. I mean, still their venue.
Yeah.
And Golding, when he knocked down that long first three, I looked at Liam and said, Liam, he still feels at home. Remember I said that?
Yeah, and he just gave him the business, didn't he? I mean, Joe Luala-Chul was very, very good, but Chris Golding, he just has an ability to hit not only a lot of shots, but big shots and tough shots. And he was just an ever-present threat, and even with a hand in his face, Cam, he was ready for the challenge.
You know what happened to though, Cam? Sorry.
Tell me.
When they called his name on the way out, they booed him. Now, generally when you have a throwdown, it's 50-50. Half fans for Melbourne United, half fans for Southeast Melbourne. It seemed like there was more fans for Southeast Melbourne at this game because when Melbourne United came out, we heard tons of boos. And he had the biggest smile on his face.
Are you saying that the Phoenix fans should not have booed?
No.
Do you think they made a mistake?
No, that's perfect. I'm saying, but see, some players love that.
Yeah.
The Goldings, the Gazes, the Shane Hills.
Yep.
When your opposition boos you, you get that tingle.
Two things. Firstly, big shout out to Craig Moeller. A horrific injury. If you're aware of the knee injury and horrific, and to bounce back and play good basketball is a credit to him. And also to Southeast Melbourne, Phoenix, and the fans getting really behind it and adding
Huge
to it.
crowd.
Yeah. But Chris Golding was the star of this show. Yeah. And Alan Wellens, our man, Hot Sauce, to join us in about 15 minutes' time.
Big Sauce.
He put it on the agenda.
Yes.
That this guy, Chris Golding, is the MVP of this league a couple of weeks ago. Yep. Right? Do you have him in that conversation right now?
He's got to be in that mix. He's got to be in that mix. Now, they've got Joe Luala-Chul, who's working his way into that mix as well. But Chris is playing at a very, very high level.
The reason I think Chris is closer to MVP than Joe, now they both can play. I love the way they play. But Joe has to spend time with Hook Porty. And if Hook Porty's playing the way he's been playing all year, they're going to split that time.
Yeah.
So that cuts down on his points, his minutes, takes away from the MVP race.
The thing is, I think we always know, when you talk about that word valuable, we all know how valuable Chris is to that team year in, year out. Yep. It's just that because they've got so much other talent, the numbers haven't always been at the level that you talk about for an MVP.
Right.
Well, right now they are.
Absolutely. Hey, it was an MVP Sunday because Chris Golding did his thing and then Jalen Adams did his thing, in particular late. What does this say more about? Well, actually, I'll start with you, Liam.
Yes.
I'll get to you, Copes, in a minute. Okay. Jalen Adams, he's an MVP of this league. He had a year, not off, just away. But his ability just to slide back into this lineup and this team in front of those adoring fans has been really a huge reason as to why the Kings are good early.
Well, our man Corey tweeted over the weekend, Jalen Adams, a.k.a. too easy.
Yeah.
Have a look at these highlights, man.
Yeah.
He's just doing it so easy. He's dancing. And he's just getting to his spot. He's scoring all these buckets at the rim. Even when he has a little fumble, he just gets it and goes back up and knocks it down. He is in a very comfortable spot right now, just doing his things. What are the numbers? Almost 20 a game, 4 boards, 5 assists. Yeah. The Kings are rolling along, and he's the head of that snake.
Yeah. All right, they ended the game on a big run. They ended the second quarter, or they went to end halftime or into halftime with a big run. Really, the lead could have been 20 for the Bullets. It was shut right down, and it was gone early into the third quarter. And then the Bullets looked like they had all the momentum, shut the game down. They're going to win a big road W. And then the Kings went bang. Who does this say more about late, Coach? Sydney or Brisbane?
Well, it says something about both of them, but Sydney, we know Sydney. They're used to making big plays at the end of the game. They're used to knocking down threes at the end of the game, especially in this venue. Noy and Bruce are used to knocking down those threes, and Adam is used to taking over. Now, I think because Brisbane are still that new team with a new coach, they got a little bit to learn, but they have the talent, and if they can go to Sydney and play the way they played, you got to look out for them.
This man, DJ Hogue, who he touched on a little bit in the pre-season, we weren't sure, changing teams, second year in the league, where was he going to go? And I'll tell you what, he's just rolled straight in, off an injury to Liam, it must be said, and been huge.
Why are we giving Brisbane a free pass for this loss?
We're not.
15 zip to close out the game?
Yeah.
I mean...
That's not good. That's not good at all.
Is that a choke?
Yeah, of course it was. Of course it was. It's a choke.
Yeah, absolutely it is. But I'll tell you what makes it a little less of a choke. A little less. Not a. Is the Sydney are really good? I still don't think we're giving really Sydney the major props, and they are. And I did hear Kane Pittman and Olin Ulick speaking about the fact and asking the question: are they the most clutch team in the league? Their ability late to be able to get the job done is paramount. And it's got Adams, it's got DJ Hogue, and it's got guys like Noy and Sean Bruce who stood up late, and their ability to be able to put points on the board in red time is almost unmatched in this league. So, yes, is it incredibly close enough to a choke for Brisbane? In particular, when you're led by Sobey and Baines, 2 boomers, right?
I just can't cop it. I just can't cop it.
Yeah, well, because you're on... You know why? Because he's on Brisbane Island. And you know what? I do.
You guys all the props and the love, and you're up 5. You've got this game on the road in
Game done. Absolutely.
You should close that baby out.
I'll tell you who didn't need a 15-0 run to close the game out to win on the weekend. The Perth Wildcats, because they pretty much did it at the start of the game. New Zealand were just limp. But Perth, 3 huge wins in 6 days, of course. A 20-point lead that was all gone against Adelaide on a Saturday night. They go to Melbourne on a Monday, and then Bryce Cotton just doing Bryce Cotton things. 37 Friday night, doing whatever he wants, which is something we have been seeing for a long time.
Let the good times roll. Just keep rolling division of Bryce getting buckets, because it's so beautiful to watch. It's what we want to see. I know, Coach, it annoyed you the way they were these back-to-back threes against the zone, and you can speak on that. But let me just wax lyrical on one of the greatest to ever do it for a moment, because the league is a better place when Bryce Cotton is doing this on a weekly basis.
He was special. He was special, and we know how special he is. We know how special he is. The coaches from opposition teams should know how special he is. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Okay. So for you to go play zone, the whole first half, maybe the first 3 quarters, Cotton's going to work. Surely you change that up, or surely you go boxing 1 or something. You cannot let Bryce Cotton get 37 points on anybody and think you're going to win. Bottom line. I just thought they stayed in the zone.
I agree.
Way too long.
I agree.
Now, nothing against the coach, because they do it the way they do it. I'm not coaching. But if I'm playing against Bryce Cotton, I'm in his jock the whole night. Now, if you beat me, you beat me. But I'm not going to give you an open shot. And then he tosses it away. You run to that guy, and he comes back to you and gives you another open shot. Huh?
A coach is like, I can't believe they played zone. Nothing against the coach. Nothing against the coach.
Nothing against the coach, but you can't.
What do you mean nothing against the coach? The coach is the guy who goes, let's play a zone. That's actually against the coach.
Maybe he knows something we don't know.
Okay.
I think, Liam, you're going to speak on that?
Well, they got some stops with that zone. Now, they didn't get those stops. No. Bryce Cotton. The numbers from that game actually said they gave up less points per possession in the zone than in the man-to-man. The eye test suggested maybe the...
Well, because honestly, the game was over by quarter time. So whatever happens after quarter time is actually irrelevant statistically. I was going to ask you a quick question. Is Bryce Cotton getting better shots than he was 3 weeks ago? Or is he just making shots?
Better shots.
Is he?
Yep. Jesse Wagstaff, Hiram Harris, everyone's looking to set him picks, get him open. They're doing much more of that than they were previously.
Big shout out to Hiram Harris, who's having a very nice season. Even when they were losing games, he was playing good ball. Quick break. Olgun Ulick with all the latest news right here next on NBL Overtime. Right around Australia, it is NBL Overtime. If you are just joining us, Jacob Jackomas has been moved on mutually via Illawarra Hawks statement early this morning. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. The best in the business. From ESPN is Olgun Ulick, who joins us now. Now, Olgun, hello to you, man.
Okay.
Plenty going on. I will just say this. I will correct myself, which is the first time that has ever happened on this show, because it's the first time I've ever been wrong.
In life.
Pretty much close to it, right? I did, for some reason, think that Trevor Gleeson had been reported that he had said no. I'm not 100% certain if that is now correct. What I am certain of is that he went on the Dribble podcast over in the West with Craig O'Donoghue and said, I haven't ruled it out. So I'll backtrack just a little bit. But history made on NBL Overtime. First time I've been wrong.
Are you all right?
Honestly?
Yeah.
I feel just so disappointed in myself. 6 years on the show and finally I've been called up. Olgun, we'll get to you and be a bit more serious. How did this process unfold? How did we get to what the Illawarra Hawks announced today?
So we can rewind back to about 2-3 weeks ago. That's when the ownership and management at the Illawarra Hawks told Jacob Jackomas, there is some pressure here. We need to start winning some games. We need a sense that we're going in some sort of direction, right? Fast forward to last week, and he was told basically, tell us what you're going to do. What is the change? Is there a bold change that's going to happen here? Doesn't seem like we're making any progress. What's going to happen here? He did that. He brought Tyler Harvey off the bench, put Hyunjung Lee in the starting lineup. And so he did his best to show this organization that, yeah, I'm willing to make moves and to change things up and to be bold to fix this. But then it got to a point this morning, it was too much. He was called into the office. He sat down by Matt Campbell, Stu Taggart, Jared Novelli, the owner of this team, and basically told, you're done. Right, you can go home. And then the team was told shortly afterward and made aware that Justin Tatum would take that job. And the feel I get is that if Justin Tatum does a reasonably good job, then this is sort of his job to have for the remainder of the season. They're going to give him some level of grace here and say, hey, this is yours for now, and let's see what you can do with this group.
Now, I think, I spoke about the timing of it, and I understand different sort of views and people have on it, but I'd absolutely roll and let him do the interim job. There's no use getting 3 weeks into this thing and then changing it up again. You're better off getting to the end of the year with someone, in my opinion, who knows the crew, knows the league, knows how it's all sort of been, and away you go from there into the off-season.
Unless you get a big-name coach. If a big-name coach becomes available in 3 weeks, what do you say to him? No?
Do you think that happens, though? Do you think how many big
they got
name
time
coaches?
to look. We got the break. They got time to look. If they go get a big name coach, then you got to.
Yeah, there is something to be said for waiting until the off season to make that.
Yeah.
To look at who it's going to be moving forward. So I said Judd Flavel for sure, and I'm in on him, but there is something to say maybe not mid-season.
What are you hearing? Judd Flavel's a name that's been thrown around. Liam obviously spoke about it. What are you hearing?
So from people I spoke to this afternoon, there does seem to be some level of mutual interest between the Illawarra Hawks and Judd Flavel. So we can attack this two ways. You have Justin Tatum, who has a connection with the owner of this team. They're both from St. Louis, so there is some trust there already, and so they're going to give Justin Tatum just some time to maybe try to figure this out, turn the ship around. When it comes to bringing in a big name head coach, we've heard Brian Goorjian, we've heard Trevor Gleeson. This doesn't feel like a job that Trevor Gleeson will take. Trevor Gleeson, when I spoke to him last week, he wants to take his summer off. He's enjoying spending time with his family, still getting paid by the Toronto Raptors. A big name coming in, it gives the impression that this is a team that is ready to compete now and ready to make an impact now, whereas it does seem like that this organization is realizing that they need to be basically like a developmental team. If you look at the Cairns Taipans and what they do, they bring a young head coach and Adam Ford in. They treat their seasons in 2 to 3 year cycles. They bring in young guys, see if you can develop them, and in that third year, think of last season in Cairns, where you have Keanu Pinder performing at his best, you bring in an impact rookie like Sam Wardenberg, and Bull Kuol is someone who is in his second or third year and making an impact too. If you can work in those sorts of cycles, that's probably how you can be healthy and sustainable as a franchise. And someone like Judd Flavel coming in is probably the person most conducive to making that sort of organisation work.
Xavier Cooks, we're not going to see him back in the NBL, but if you watch Japanese basketball, you will see him. Is he signed? That's official?
It's not official, but he has signed a contract. He's heading to the Chiba Jets in the B League in Japan. Now, that's the top league in Japan. So he joins a team that has John Mooney on it in a league that has countless NBL guys. I want to say there's up to about 20 former NBL players in that league right now. You know, you've had Vic Law, Alan Williams played in that league. There are so many. Rob Frank signed in that league as well. And so this is a league that will pay you a lot of money to go and play there. It's not the highest quality basketball, but it's a ton of money to go play there. I'm told Xavier Cooks had two-way offers in the NBA, but he's at a point in his career, he's 28, he just doesn't want to go sit on a bench or play in the G League to try and prove himself. We saw this a few years ago where he didn't play Summer League. People were confused why Jack White went and played Summer League and Xavier Cooks didn't. He's relatively proven outside of the NBA. He is one of the best players in world basketball, not in the NBA. And so it's basically, if there is an opportunity there where you want me, I am here. But he's not going to go out there and prove himself in the lower ranks of the NBA and work himself up.
We might discuss it next couple of weeks, but playing basketball is incredibly important towards the Olympic Games as well, which has been fairly well documented. Hey, NBL expansion, we continually talk about it. What can you tell us about Darwin?
Yeah, so Dave Stevenson, the CEO of the NBL, and Vince Crivelli, the CEO of the NBL, they travel to Darwin. And it's really interesting because the amount of people that say Darwin is becoming a legit possibility as an NBL expansion team, and then everyone on this side tells me there's just no chance. Logistically, it's practically impossible. But every time the NBL comes forward and says, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, the Northern Territory government says, we've got you. We will do this. And so as much as everyone tries to push it away, they say getting in and out as far as flights is very difficult. Having a TV truck there, it's very difficult. It costs a lot of money. Will you play games on the waterfront as opposed to the other stadium you have? The NBL says we want to be on the waterfront. Northern Territory says we will make it happen. And so as much as the NBL says there are all these asks and you need to tick every box, Northern Territory government keeps saying, we've got you. They're just not going anywhere.
Yeah. There are a couple of key pillars that need to be in place and boxes that need to be ticked for expansion. But the biggest of them all, I think, is government partnership. Yes. And that's what has helped the Tasmanian situation to be so successful. So if that's in place in the Northern Territory, then Darwin will stay on the agenda.
Injuries, of course. Big game Sunday afternoon, 1v2, Melbourne v Sydney, and there's been a raft of injured players, probably more so in Melbourne, but no Galloway at Sydney. Do we expect any of these guys to play?
So the one in I would expect is Luke Travers. He's someone who he would have played in the throwdown if it was his choice. The concussion protocols dictate otherwise. So he would love to have played in that. I imagine he'll play in that game. The other guys, you're talking about Delhi with a calf injury, Ian Clark with a hamstring, and Jalen Galloway with a shoulder. These are just the types of injuries that I don't know if these teams want to risk right now. And so it would make way more sense for these teams, and I feel like this will be the case, that they will probably sit them out, give them that game off and also the FIBA break to get properly right before they get them back into the action. These two teams, they're top of the ladder. They have some healthy wins in their pocket. They don't need to risk, guys. They've picked up enough wins.
Pat Miller, Bobby Klintman, these guys coming back?
I think Bobby Klintman is coming back, and Pat Miller was on track to come back last round. I'm surprised he didn't. So it wouldn't surprise me if both of those guys are back in action.
Hey, shout out to the tight pants. Just had to get a little tight pants.
Absolutely. We need to screw some more tight pants in on this show. I'm with you. I love them. Hey, man, thank you.
Thank you.
Olgun Ulick, best in the business. ESPN Zone. Hey, hot sauce, big sauce, Alan Williams, whatever you call him, he's a force. He's going to join us next right here on the desk.
You better go out and give me some numbers, bro. Look, I need numbers.
I want to win the game first and foremost. That's what matters. Okay. I'll give you the politically correct answer, but I'm going out there to try to be myself and play, and that's what I can bring.
Double.
That's always the goal.
Okay.
I was born with that. I was born with that.
Double. Always the goal. Our man, Big Sauce, Alan Williams, a couple of weeks ago, where he also said earlier in the year he's going to be the MVP, and so far he's been brilliant. Although the Brisbane game and then the throwdown the weekend didn't go exactly as planned. Welcome back, man. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Life goes on.
It absolutely does, and life goes on all the way to Leonard Copeland. Come on, Coach. Up to you, man.
Double, and you were born with that?
I was born with it.
How about being born with this?
Oh, no, what do you
He
got?
actually brought him in.
I got a little something.
He brought him in.
2 eggs.
The eggs?
You crack those.
What have you drawn on the eggs?
I
Drop by
got
it.
his face on there because he laid 2 eggs. He laid an egg against Brisbane.
That's crazy.
14 points, 7 rebounds,
3 assists.
3 assists. He laid a big egg against Melbourne United, 14-6, 3 and 2. Yeah. Guess what? No double. Doesn't work for me, bro.
Yeah.
I'll stand on it.
You either got to get the win or the
Brought in
double.
the
I'll
eggs.
stand on it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Then,
to
just
do
before we go any further, firstly, congratulations, Coach. Did you actually draw them yourself?
I did it myself, bro.
Yeah, well, that's actually not too bad of a job, all things considered.
Smash it.
We'll start on this Monday morning, Monday afternoon, the review. What do you all make of it? Because it was disappointing. Southeast Melbourne, Phoenix, the throwdown. We spoke about it earlier. Joints packed, intensity through the roof, and in the end, they outplayed you late.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you go against your crosstown rival, it's bigger than just a game, and so.
So you hate them. You've only been here 2 years, but you hate them yourself?
I am not a fan of Melbourne United
Okay.
in that sense, and it's a true rivalry, and it's a game that we plan to get up for, and we're looking for a better effort in, and we didn't get there. We didn't defend the way we wanted to defend, and I'll take a lot of the onus on myself, obviously, with the ability that I feel that I have and the importance that I bring to my team. Me fouling out is just unexcusable. And it's something that we got to continue to work on. I got to play without my hands. We got to figure out our defensive coverages better. But heading in the right direction still. I'm very confident in this team, and I'm very confident in the goals that we have and we can achieve. And so I hope Cope has that same energy, handing me the MVP trophy.
Yay!
Same
I
energy,
like it.
fam.
Same energy.
With the egg. So I'll take it on me.
No, you weren't the only problem. I thought Cummings was a bit off. Cummings was 2 for 12 or 2 for 13.
Right.
Had he made some shots, and I think you guys only made 4 or 5 threes from the outside, maybe.
Yeah, we didn't shoot the ball.
Didn't shoot the ball well.
No.
But what I said about Melbourne United was Dean Vickerman studies these guys, and it looked like he knew everything you guys were running at one stage. You know what I mean? So you guys played well, but I just thought Melbourne United were just a little bit better and a little bit hungrier. Just seemed to me.
Source the matchup with JLA.
Yes.
It was a premium matchup of 2 of the best bigs in the league, if not the 2 best bigs. Our man Corey Homicide Williams put this out. He said that Joe Lawal is the best centre in the NBA. It's something he has said a few times over the journey.
He has.
He's got a real fascination in the centre position.
He does. He loves the centre.
He loves the point guards. He likes the centre with Sean Long. It's Joe Lawal-Achul, and it's Joe Lawal-Achul again in his view. Talk to us about the matchup and where you feel like that's all at.
So much fun. I mean, obviously, love the fact that Corey's involved and still dropping those big-time tweets. JLA got the win and had a stellar performance in that game, and so he can call himself the best center in the NBL at this moment in time. Luckily, we'll have some more opportunities to go against each other, and I'm really looking forward to that matchup and getting a chance to go back out there and try to get more.
How can you get the advantage on him? He's got a little bit of length that kind of troubled you on some of those finishes. How can you get a bit more of an advantage in that matchup?
I think it's just being a little bit more crafty, maybe throwing in some pump fakes here or there. There was a couple of times where I would get into it and I'd be really one-dimensional and really focused on trying to get my shot up while missing my cutter's back door and those kind of things. I feel like I have a really good overall offensive game. I can pass the ball, I can read the thing right, and I was just really locked in and focused on trying to get buckets, and I think that took me away from a lot of the good parts of my game that I have. And so
What
gotta
about
move the ball better?
What about him playing off those elbows? That was an issue.
Yeah, I mean, obviously defensive coverages are going to shift around. I got to do a better job of not putting my hands in there. But if he makes a shot over me with my hands up, then there's nothing really you can do. You got to go down there and try to score it on the other end.
Do you think the referees need to let you guys bang a little bit more? Because I seen the first quarter, you gave him a couple, and the referees sort of called a foul, and you sort of had to back off a little bit. Now, you guys are 2 big boys in there going at it. And in the NBA, the big boys bang and pushing. I think, though, over here, you sort of have to pull back. So did you have to pull back a little bit and worry about foul trouble? Or
I didn't pull back. That's why I had 5 fouls, you know. And so it's a better job of myself and other players around this league understanding how the games are being called and understanding that anything with your hand reaching in there is usually going to be a foul.
Yeah.
So I have to improve myself and my defensive IQ to stop doing that and avoid putting myself in that position and put my team in that position.
remember in the fourth quarter when his shot was going boop, boop, And it was like 5 or 6 of them. A lot of them were going in and coming out. And I said he's missing a lot of those bunnies that he usually makes. And you said because he has to deal with that extra length. Just a little bit extra length with Melbourne United rather than everyone else.
And see, that's where I would disagree with you there, Liam. I think I love those shots. I'm going to shoot those same shots the next time I play them.
They were very close, too.
And I expect them to go in. You know, I went back into the gym today. I got reps up. I got my shots in. I got my lift in. And life goes on. And you don't shape your game to any specific team. Obviously, length has been a thing against me in the past. But I've also been successful against it as well. And so I'm not discouraged by that at all. I'm get back in the lab and continue to work and just worry about.
You better, because I've got 4 more eggs waiting. You have to buy a 6-pack of eggs. You can't buy 4. You can't buy 2 at a time.
Hey, don't expense them back to NBL Overtime, man. We don't need that budget being spent on a 6-pack of eggs.
It is going to be one of, if not the best matchup to watch over the course of this season. You remember Andrew Boga, Sean Long, and how much fun that was?
Yes.
This one with Joe Illawarra Chul and Joe Chi was fun for a period of time in those throwdowns. You guys going head-to-head is going to be fun to watch.
It'll be so much fun to play against, too. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix ownership group, and which is what we have in the NBL. We have a lot of interesting ownerships, and this is no different. John Wall, Nick Kyrgios courtside on the weekend as well.
So cool. Like, it just added to that element and that atmosphere that we had. Obviously, John came down to practice and shot around with us a little bit, got his work in after we were done, and just came to the club and spoke with everybody and shook everybody's hand, and just to show that he's involved. And I think that's the coolest thing about this NBL and what we have building here is the ownership is involved. You see guys coming in and you see them dapping up their team. And now we have this massive throwdown game with Nick Kyrgios and John Wall in the building. And we got the Reebok pump section on the side. And it just feels like a really good atmosphere for basketball right now.
You would have played against John Wall, right? How do you find that? A guy he's still an active basketballer and trying to get back in the NBA. In that situation, do you find it a little bit peculiar that you play against this guy, probably gave him a couple of cheapies on a touch screen, and now he's your owner?
I mean, it's cool. He doesn't own me, right?
No, that's also true. That is true.
But no, I mean, we dapped each other up when we saw each other. Obviously, remember that we played against each other, and the world of basketball is so small, but it is a really cool and unique opportunity that the NBL is giving these NBA players and other people around the world to be involved with something that's growing and that's building and that's getting bigger at all times. And so anybody out there that's looking for a chance to get in, I know the NBL is talking about expansion. This is a great time to be involved.
Did you guys see Joe Illawarra dance the John Wall dance at John Wall after beating the team John Wall owns?
That better be in Santa's watching.
That was bold.
That sounds like a no, but anyway, it was cool. It was fun to see. He was in a better mood this week, by the way. He's a bit more. He was happier. He's enjoying his craft JLA. He's been a bit grumpy earlier in the year. Who you got this week?
We got Adelaide on Friday.
Friday night.
Oh,
DJ back in the hood.
Watch that one.
Great.
Love it. You give us a double-double?
That's the goal. That's the goal.
A double-double?
You ain't hear no gulp. You don't hear no gulp from me. You know what I'm doing all the time.
Hey, thanks for dropping by, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Sam Vecenie is going to join us next from The Athletic because the mock draft is out. There's NBL players and next stars everywhere. Plenty more in NBL Overtime on the other side of this.
Tui spins, drives, scores. No board for Humphries. Flowers flashes to the basket. To the baseline. Oh, and that's how you finish a play. Here's Hook Porty against Saar with the offensive rebound, and Saar rejected the shot. Saar elevates against Rob Lowe. That was pretty to watch. Clinton gonna let it fly. Why not?
Next stars, next stars, next stars, next stars, more stars, current stars. That's how it feels with this young crop right now in the NBL. Wherever you might be, it's NBL Overtime. And when it comes to mock drafts, there's only one that we care about. In fact, it's only one that you should care about. And it's the Athletics mock draft, and it's Sam Vecenie who joins us now. Man, how you doing, buddy?
Damn, what's going on? I'm worried about being up here. I'm worried if I say something wrong. Next time I come here, I'm going to have eggs from Coach. Like, what's going on?
You might bring it in.
You know what? It's the most creative, funny thing the coach has ever done in his life. I'm sticking up for our man. Hey, let's start with this because the mock draft is out and it is littered. I said off the top, half jokingly, it feels like the NBL media guide. There you go. 1, 20, 30, 43, 49. These are incredibly high numbers. Headlined Alex Saar, the Wildcats at number 1. It's a mock draft that we are excited about. I'm going to ask you straight off the top. When you watch Alex Saar play, what gives you the impression right now that he is the number 1 prospect in the world?
Yeah, to me, it's the defense and the way he's able to cover ground defensively, right? You look at the way he is 7'1", he's very mobile, he's very active, he's able to protect the rim, he's able to play out in hard hedges defensively, he's able to just cover so much ground, and that's the name of the game right now in the NBA defensively. The court is much more well spread in half-court situations. You look at some of the best defenders in the league right now. Jaren Jackson, Evan Mobley, both those guys, finalists for Defensive Player of the Year last year. Nick Claxton, a guy that I think actually has a lot of comparable traits to Alex Sarr. These are some of the best defenders in the league, and I think Alex has very, very similar traits to them on that end of the court.
We just saw on those clips a lot of his ability to stretch the floor as well, step out. What does that do for him as a prospect?
Yeah, I think that if he proves that he can knock down shots at a really high level, it would be valuable. He does have like a little bit of a side spin on the shot right now, so I'm waiting to get a little bit more of a sample on the shot just to see. He very clearly has touch. It comes out of his hand really, really soft, but it's going to be that consistency. I think long term he's probably going to shoot it, but at the end of the day, we need to see where he's at as a shooter before projecting that immediately to the NBA.
Have you been surprised, just quickly on Alex, have you been surprised by what he's shown since you first seen him or since he first sort of rolled into a Wildcats jersey?
I think I'm a little bit surprised by the fact that he's able to come in and just be impactful from day one. We've seen so many next stars come in and struggle in that way, right? It's a hard league. I think that's the biggest thing that gets underrated about the NBL. This is a hard league. You're playing men every single night as a teenager, and Alex Sarr's ability to come in, he's not doing a great job banging on the interior. Like if he has to play Allen Williams, it's going to be a problem. But he does a good enough job to at least be impactful on that end, I think.
Bobby Klintman at number 20 in the mock draft. He's had an opportunity to play against some NBA teams already. Is this another guy that's continually impressing you for the Taipans?
Yeah, I think so. You know, he goes through these stretches where he looks like the best player on the court, right? Every, maybe once every, 4 of his 5-minute little runs that he goes through with Adam Forty kind of going through those little rotations that he gives. So I think that the upside with
Liam gets out of his seat.
The upside with Bobby Klintman is very real. We know that he can shoot the basketball. We know that he goes through these runs where he can actually be an impactful defensive player. He's just young in the game at this point, right? Like, he's coming from Sweden. He played 1 year of high school basketball. He played 1 year of college basketball. That's really it in terms of the high-level basketball that he's played at this point. So to come here to be productive in the NBL, I think it's really, really impressive. He just needs to continue to improve his feel for the game, and it'll continue to come in terms of consistency.
Super impressive here in the NBL. But he went to the NBA, like you said, and played 2 games, and he struggled with his shot. Did that hurt his numbers at all?
So, look, if you get in front of teams, it's going to be a problem if you don't play well. What I will say about that is that NBA teams are also very aware that the travel situation for Cairns going into that game was not ideal. They traveled. They had 1 practice. I think there was like a 20-hour travel as well. They had 1 practice, and then the next day they had to play. That's really hard for anybody, right? And then I think they had a day off, maybe 2 days off, and then they played again. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think that teams will care a lot more about the way he played or the way he does play going forward into the future and the way he plays for them when he goes into workouts and things like that.
Alex Tui at number 30. Of course, a player we didn't think we were going to see. Of course, Liam did a great job of saying, forget Gonzaga, man. The Kings is where you need to be. And so far from what we have seen, it's the best place for him.
Well, I kind of want Liam to talk his mess to me right now because I came up to Liam at the Blitz and said, I think Alex is probably going to be a 2-year guy. It's the reality of it. It's just going to take a minute for him to adjust to the athleticism of the NBL. I think there's a real case he's been as valuable from a game-by-game perspective in the NBL as any guy that is a next star to this point. He has come in. He knows where to be defensively. He can knock down shots from distance. He can really pass the ball. High IQ basketball player. That's exactly it. So I really, really love what I've seen from Alex Tui. I think he's the guy that's helped himself most among the Australian group of players. And honestly, like maybe him, maybe Nikola Topic, maybe helped himself more than anybody else in this 2024 NBA draft cycle to this point.
I just want to ask you, are you surprised by what Alex Tui's been able to do?
You know what? I'm not. I'm surprised by some of the things that have happened. I'm surprised at how quickly Alex started to feel comfortable playing in the pros. But not Alex Tui, man. Like, he's got that game. He's with a high IQ game. He's got great feel, and he's just such a hard worker. He knows I need to be a corner 3 knockdown guy, and he's working so hard on that. The shot looks beautiful right now. It's wet, and he's always going to do everything that you need to do. He's versatile defensively. Man, he's been awesome.
AJ Johnson at number 43. He hasn't probably got as much court time as we probably expected. Has that hurt his stocks?
Yes and no. I mean, I think people were excited to see AJ coming into this cycle, but there was also a real degree of, I don't want to say skepticism, just skepticism maybe in terms of him being an immediate impact guy. Yep. He's just very skinny. If you stand next to AJ Johnson, he looks like a teenager, right? And this it's a really, really hard league to play in when you have a baby face and when you look like a teenager, right?
Yes.
These dudes are physical, they're tough, they're going to bring it to you every single night. And his game is just not quite polished in terms of skill level yet, but he's a great athlete. He's super aggressive. He's very active when he's on the court. He's trying to bring energy to the game.
Every time.
Every single time he's coming out, he's going 100%. He's going 100 mile an hour. I think that teams will look at him as a really interesting project right now, but that's probably more in the second round if he decides to go through with the 2024 draft, and we'll see.
There's a little bit of change going on at Illawarra right now. We'll see how that impacts AJ Johnson because I tell you, if he gets some run, this kid's going to be a first-round pick. If he gets some run in the second half of this season, he's oozing with talent, and it's just waiting to be unleashed.
Good.
Ariel Hook-Porty, our first ever red shirt next arm, right on that, right? He missed that year. He's number 3, so we're a little bit different, but he's come back. He was already big and strong, but he's come back a man, hasn't he, this year for Melbourne United?
Yeah, you know, it's really disappointing that he unfortunately missed last season with that torn Achilles, because I'd heard great things about him coming into last season in terms of where he was with his game. He'd gotten into incredible shape. The thing that Ariel does is he plays a very direct game, right? Yep. He's running rim to rim every time. He's protecting the rim. There's no complication to it. It's very simple. And I think he's better than a lot of guys that we've seen recently get drafted as stash guys, projects in the second round. Khalifa Diop, Carlo Matkovic, guys like that. I would expect that he will hear his name called. It's just probably going to be more of a second round situation because he is limited in terms of what he can do, and that's okay. Like, teams look for guys that can be high-level rim protectors who run rim to rim and who are able to impact the game without touching the ball, which is really valuable.
I was going to ask the question because he has the experience now. Is he NBA ready right now, though, because of his body and his size and his athleticism?
I think that he's probably more NBA ready than maybe anybody else in this league, to be fair, but he also just has inherent limitations in terms of his movement skills. So if he's not ready to go from the jump in the NBA, that might be a little bit more of a concern than if Alex Sarr isn't ready to go from the jump, because Alex still has so much more physical development ahead of him.
The other next stars, of course, Rocco Zakarsky. We'll talk more about him over the course of the journey. Mantas Rubstavicius, who just keeps getting hurt. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Did you like that fourth quarter explosion from Trenton Flowers a few weeks ago?
I did. It was great to see him get going. It's really, really nice to see Trenton be able to knock down shots, right? Because when he gets in that rhythm, when he starts getting that confidence, you can feel like the basket's as big as the ocean for him, right? Yeah. Look, it's going to be a process for Trenton. You know, he came in thinking it was going to be a point guard situation. I think that they've made the right call, shifting him into being more of a wing. And from what I understand, he's taken to that entirely well and there's been no complication at all, and I think that's a credit to his maturity to be able to do that. So I think that it's probably maybe a 1 or 2 year situation. We'll see with Trenton, but I was really glad to see him get going at least during that one game.
Not as glad as CJ Bruton and Liam Santamaria were, I'll tell you that right now. Thank you, man, for dropping by. We appreciate all the great work you do. We're going to get to a break. Santa's watching Yes or No and plenty more on NBL Overtime next.
Hey, Santa's watching, boys. Here we go. Look at the official with the whistle. What's going on with the whistle?
Talk about swallowing the whistle.
Hey, Mitch Creek, he thinks CJ was flopping with the head. Ooh. Check out the reaction here from Creaky with the head snapping. Shades of Daniel Kickett from 2019. You remember this? Yep. Love that. Joe Blake, you with me, Cam? You with me here, Joe Blake?
Yeah.
Best mascot in the league.
Absolutely.
And just quietly, the burgers. They love the burger. Look at this girl in the white. She's so excited. The mum just told her, you might get burgers here. And she's so sad.
Yeah.
She literally just
Hey,
disappeared
you know what?
off the face of the
Don't
earth.
tease me.
I'm no parent, but you shouldn't get your kids' hopes up and then break it like.
Well, that's true. That is
Section.
true.
Now, it has been pointed out to me via Twitter that there's a couple of other mock drafts you could probably look at. The ESPN mock draft would be a good one to check out as well.
Yeah, we do like that
Of course,
one.
we love all mock drafts. When it comes
We're here
to
for
the NBA. Now, yes or no in a split second, right? In a split second.
Here we go.
But I want to ask you both this question.
Okay.
How horribly disappointed are we in New Zealand? We're on the same page, right?
Yeah.
No, you give them a pass.
Well,
Okay.
how horribly disappointed?
Yeah.
Like very horribly
Yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah. Can they still conjure up a run here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they can.
But not until Zion Cheatham comes back.
Or they pick up someone else, which you're not going to do.
Oh, it doesn't look like, but I'm
need to,
hearing,
which they
I'm
need
hearing
to.
that he's still out for a little while, right?
Yeah.
We're talking months, 6 weeks away.
That's not going to work for
It's a
them.
long time to be able to get going.
They're going to be tough in January,
Yeah.
but it's probably going to be too late.
Now, the McDowell White situation, is everyone else confused by that as well?
Need to get him going.
Well, like,
Yeah.
Let me tell you why he's not going now.
please.
Because last year they had 3 very talented imports
Right.
that he could do this, and this to.
Yes.
And we focused on those 3 imports.
Yeah.
And defensively, we got to stop these guys. So he was able to do his thing. Now, I'm not saying he's not good. He's good. But then now they don't have those guys.
He needs a pick and roll big to work with. He needs a lob threat to work with out of the ball screen.
Yeah.
And he had that in Derek Pardon.
Yep.
And then when Pardon was out, Will McDowell-White found it a bit more difficult.
Yep.
And while Zion Cheatham is not playing right now, he doesn't have that guy.
That's
But
right.
he doesn't even have. He's not starting either. He doesn't have the pill. He's coming off the
Yeah.
bench. So they paid him big money, and there was other teams who had a real crack at him. He stayed, which I think we all agreed was the right call. And yeah, it's frustrating because you have got a roster, and I know they've had some injuries, but so have a lot of other clubs.
Yeah.
Melbourne United have injuries. They're missing 3 of their best 6, and they're still beating South East Melbourne Phoenix. All right, yes or no? Stinger time.
No,
stinger.
there is no stinger.
Okay, cool.
still.
You ready for you?
Yes.
Is the review system more trouble than it's worth?
No.
Okay. Hey, should Adelaide celebrate Daniel Johnson on Friday night? Like video package, really make a big thing of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Is
Big
Alex Tui the rookie of the year?
Possibly, yes.
I had to ask you because Liam would never.
Yeah.
He's got 8 children. He couldn't dare separate
Next
it.
gen
that's
award
fair
for
enough.
Dick
Hey, with this Hawks team, at the start of the year, this actual Hawks roster, if Brian Goorjian was the coach, do you think they would have made the play-in game?
Yes, Gorgon doesn't miss that sort of
Is
stuff.
South East Melbourne Phoenix mentally intimidated by Melbourne United?
No.
Is Bull Call the best defender of Bryce Cotton in the league?
No.
Who is?
I've always... Shayeli is probably that
Shayeli.
guy.
Yeah.
I've always really liked Nathan Sobey on Bryce Cotton.
Right.
He does a great
Size,
job
he has the
chasing
size,
him
he's
around.
quick,
Yeah.
Good game this week.
Very good.
Really good
matchup.
game. Well, we haven't given Cairns anywhere near the love we should. They've got a big game. The Wildcats are playing good
Yeah.
basketball. Thursday night's a great way to start the weekend.
Huge. That Perth-Cairns matchup is going to be fun. And that Bull-Qual-Bryce Cotton one
Yes.
in particular. The 2 guys who sit first and second in minutes played,
Yep.
they're going to play like 35 minutes solid on each other.
Yeah.
You know what Cope's called 35 minutes?
What?
3 quarters.
Yeah, that's right.
Am I right?
That's right.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Thank you, bro.
I like it. Who wins, Perth or Cairns?
Perth.
Perth.
Okay. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. We're only 2 sleeps away. It all fires up again, wherever you might be. Love your basketball. That's all we ask. See ya.